On this episode of MythBusters,
Like that.
sparks are flying
Totally me. We finally get a reasonable experiment here, and he's like,
and trouble's brewing.
I would say that the rig is not safe at all.
Adam finds out that the falling penny myth can really be a pain in the...
oh!
We'll see why these guys don't have their own cooking show. And find out the link between Japanese spies and Lucille Ball's teeth.
The Morse code, like.
Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage
I always enjoyed seeing Adam in pain.
Oh!
and Jamie Heineman.
Jamie wants a big boom.
More than 30 years special effects experience.
Feel kind of sexy.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. This myth originated in the Big Apple, atop an architectural icon, the Empire State Building.
The myth is that if you throw a penny off of a building this height, that it'll either get going so fast that it'll embed itself in the concrete at the base of the building, or it'll hit somebody in the head and kill them.
Lydia Ruth has worked here for 18 years. She's heard the penny myth many times.
I know one gentleman who worked in the lobby, was with the building from late 1930s, right after the building opened, and he had heard it. So I think it's just one of those myths that belongs to the Empire State Building.
Tossing a coin off the Empire State is not as easy as it sounds. Tall buildings like this can generate their own unique weather conditions. Some updrafts can reach cyclonic speeds.
It's 8 a.m. in the morning and the wind's already starting to pick up. And there's every possibility that if you hurl this thing off the edge of the building, that it'd just blow it back over.
When the wind blows against the face of the building, the wind blows up. And you might have heard the story of it raining up or it's snowing up. Well, that actually does happen. It will blow against the side of the building. There's an updraft. So if you throw something off, no matter how far away you throw it, the wind is going to catch it.
Of course, there's also the possibility that the story might be true, in which case you risk killing some innocent pedestrian.
We need to figure out how fast a penny would be going if it fell 1,280 feet, what kind of damage it would do. I think we need to go back to the shop and test it.
Adam and Jamie need to find out what is a penny's maximum speed when falling. In other words, its terminal velocity. Once they've done that, they'll shoot the coin at concrete, asphalt, and a head made from ballistics gel.
Nice.
Step 1, finding out a penny's terminal velocity. Now, we know a person's terminal velocity is about 120 miles per hour. But is a penny's the same? In his quest to find out, Adam's willing to jump out of a perfectly good plane for the first time. As he plummets, he releases handfuls of pennies.
Well done. How'd it go?
That was amazing. I mean, it's unlike anything I've ever tried before. You really should have done it.
What'd the pennies do when you let them go?
The pennies flew right out of my hands. I opened one hand and then the other, and the pennies just like shot out towards the sky. Out of one hand, they hovered for a second in like the burble above my hand, you know, the air bubble vortex, and other than that, I was traveling way faster than they were. I want to do it again. That was awesome.
The guys have seen complex equations that put a penny's top speed at somewhere between 35 and 65 miles per hour.
I used to be able to juggle them.
But Adam's not taking those figures at face value. He wants to test them in his own penny wind tunnel. At the bottom, wind speed is clocked at 65 miles per hour. Holes in the tube allow the air to dissipate, so the speed at the top drops to 35 miles per hour. If the penny stays in the tube, then the equations are correct. Bingo! Adam's one happy Mythbuster. If only Jamie were as excited.
This matches the math, the complex equations that we have showing the velocity. I think we should go for a worst case scenario, like 65 miles an hour.
Okay, works for me.
This is excited, Jamie?
Yeah, this is.
We got a world first. It's going out on television that we did the experiment that showed exactly how fast a penny goes. No math, no ideas, no timing off a building. We got it right here in the lab.
That's great. Good job.
Totally me. We finally get a reasonable experiment here, and he's like, well, that's great. You know, it's like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna please the guy?
I don't consider it an enormous feat to be able to, elevate a penny in a wind chamber.
On that note, the Mythbusters go their separate ways. Jamie's looking for a way to fire a penny at 65 miles per hour, while Adam begins work on the dummy head.
I decided to use the staple gun because, when we're experimenting with things here in the shop, a lot of times I don't like to go through a whole elaborate process and days of machining something only to find that it was the wrong approach or didn't have the right speed. I like to kind of find something that will allow me to move into it quickly.
To make the penny fit in the staple gun, Jamie lops a little off each side.
Whoops. We should get out of here. That's mercury vapor there.
Okay.
Well, the good news is it works.
I guess I should look up before I shoot those things. Well, that worked.
Next, Jamie has to measure how fast the penny is going.
We've taken a staple gun, like what you would have in a normal wood shop. We put it in front of a chart that we can track the speed of the penny with. We've got a concrete block and a high-speed camera. So we've modified this staple gun to accept the penny. We're firing it and tracking it, recording how fast it goes based on this information.
It's time to see if Jamie's penny can achieve terminal velocity.
Okay, firing.
The modified staple gun blasts the coin from 3 feet at the concrete block.
Look, you can see the penny imprint.
The penny traveled the 3 feet in 16/500ths of a second.
The rig has shown that we can fire this penny at about 65 miles an hour, which is at the upper level of what studies have shown that the terminal velocity of a penny would be.
Jamie's strong points are that he'll try a solution that seems ridiculous, chewing gum and nails to do something, and it will seem really inelegant, but he'll have grasped by trying that a central thing about the mechanics of what he's doing. And his solution, therefore, it won't be too clever. It'll be very unadorned, very simple, but it'll work.
But the staple gun's not perfect. It has to fire a whole penny.
Obviously, it was really easy to nip the corners off of this penny to make it fit in the gun, and it's not that much different in mass than what a real penny is. So I'm pretty sure, based on that if I widen the channel or the throat of this staple gun, that I should be able to make it fire a full-size penny just as well and with the same kind of speed. Well, it took relatively little work, and this is it's a high-velocity penny shooter. Terminal velocity gun right here.
Meanwhile, Adam's mood has changed dramatically.
Screw. No, that's total wash. I'm going to argue against this. I don't have it today. I'm just going to get really frustrated.
He's vacuum forming a mold to make the ballistics
It's
bust.
a female skull, which is why I used the female head here.
The skull is placed inside the mold and ballistics gel poured in around it. When it sets, the gel has the same density and elasticity as human flesh, which is why the FBI uses it to test weapons.
Screw.
The mold has sprung a leak. Paper toweling and glue stem the tide of gel. Most coins thrown from the top of the Empire State Building don't get very far. They wind up here, just 5 stories down on the 81st floor. It proves one thing, though. A lot of people have heard the penny myth.
So it would seem that even though the myth is prevalent, people are pretty cavalier about testing it.
Yeah, they do it all the time, and it scares me because if they really thought that their penny was going to kill somebody, what are they thinking?
And it seems penny-related myths have always had plenty of currency.
Pennies have long been associated with luck. In this case, really bad luck, but normally very good luck. If you find a penny, pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck. If you pass up a penny, you'll lose $1. If you find a penny that's heads up, it's particularly good luck, and you should carry it with you as a charm. A bride should always have a penny in her shoe, and following the wedding, she should take that penny and get it made into a piece of jewelry, a pendant or a bracelet or something like that.
Back in the workshop, Jamie's showing off his penny gun. Adam can't hide his approval.
Oh my God. Damn, that is some serious impact there. I mean, are you sure this is 64 miles an hour?
64.4.
Of course, now he wants to have a turn. He also apparently wants to do his own narration.
Adam loads a penny into the lethal penny shooting device.
This time, the penny is launched at a block of asphalt. The penny bounces right off. So the test shows that a coin traveling at terminal velocity cannot penetrate concrete or asphalt. But what about flesh and bone? Remember, the penny myth talks about a penny shattering someone's skull. Enter Norma, Adam's ballistics dummy. Norma's cranium will take the full brunt of a penny traveling at terminal velocity.
Lights. Perfect hit. Lights off. Yep.
The penny broke through the thin layer of ballistics gel, but the skull is intact.
So, you ready to put that to the ultimate test? We've tried it on all the other stuff we've got. Want to try and catch it in your hand?
The penny is leaving an imprint in the concrete when it hits, so, you know, I'm a little hesitant about catching it, actually.
The MythBusters are about to find out what happens when a penny traveling at 64 miles per hour hits skin.
I'll do it.
Okay.
But you got to do it too, otherwise, you know, you're like a wuss.
Okay, you first.
Okay. Still a wuss.
I'll kick your ass.
Penny for your thoughts right about now, Adam.
I'm scared.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Ow! That didn't actually hurt that much. We can try again. Okay.
Looks pretty good. Are we ready? Ready, Adam?
When you are.
Okay, 3, 2.
You hit me in the same exact place. It didn't hurt that much before, but now it really hurts.
Oh, you baby. It looks like it's swelling.
Yeah.
It stings, but there's no bruising or broken skin.
Well, I always enjoyed seeing Adam in pain. I'm not sure what it is.
All right, Heineman. Are you ready?
Now, it's Adam's chance for revenge.
Go.
That was totally off.
I felt it on my wrist.
If it hurt, he's hiding it well.
Adam.
And you know how Adam wasn't having a good day? Well,
Go ahead, shoot me in the ass. Come on. I can take it. Oh! Oh, man. Ouch. Oh.
Well, you said I could.
I did. No, I was prepared for the consequences. Whew. So you made that great gun. We made the pennies go 64 miles an hour. What did we end up with?
Well, it didn't penetrate the asphalt. It didn't penetrate the concrete. It didn't penetrate the skull of the ballistics dummy. And it didn't hurt your butt.
Thank goodness.
I mean, it kind of stung when we hit the bones on our hands. But, you know, the myth's not looking good.
but that doesn't faze the MythBusters. It's time to see how fast a penny has to go before it does serious damage.
You know, anytime we get to play around with explosives and gunpowder and, you know, cool weapons and things like that, here at MythBusters, we're happy campers.
Adam's modifying a high-powered rifle so that it will expend a penny.
That's not chambering around, I'm just test firing.
The coin will be fired from a special aluminum barrel attached to the rifle like a silencer. The rifle itself will be loaded with a blank round. When it's fired, the expanding gases from the cartridge will explode along the barrel, propelling the coin from the slot with bullet-like speed. It's a bold plan and a potentially deadly one.
We're live.
Jamie's far from convinced.
I would say that the rig is not safe at all. There's a significant chance that there will be an explosion, and either the breech of the rifle will blow out, or what may well be likely is that the whole head of the rifle, the device that Adam has constructed on here, may just shoot off the end of the rifle.
Well, Jamie, take cover, because Adam's taking aim.
All right. Firing. And 3, 2, 1. Well, that seemed to work like a charm.
Look at that imprint. You can clearly see where it hit.
The penny is shot from the slot at almost 3 times the speed of sound.
The high-speed camera result apparently is 3,000 feet per second.
That's like a bullet. That's the speed of a bullet.
The coin still did not end up embedded in the block.
Where's the penny?
This is one penny, however, that has been well and truly spent.
The detail on the face of it is flattened. Work like a charm.
And Jamie's forced to eat his words.
Yeah, congratulations, Adam.
Thank you.
I wouldn't want to get hit by that thing.
1 penny down. 1 to go.
Even at supersonic speed, a penny weighing just 2.5 grams simply doesn't have enough mass to break through concrete or bone. Unlike, say, a real bullet, which in this case is 6.65 millimeters of solid lead. The penny drop myth isn't worth a dime.
Oh man. I hate when that happens. Eliminating all the things that are in the penny's way from just reaching the ground, 64 miles an hour just wasn't enough to cause any kind of damage to a person. And then when we made it go almost 3 times the speed of sound, it still wasn't enough to break the bones.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing I can come up with is if you were looking straight up in the sky and you got hit in the eye, it probably wouldn't be very good for you. But even then, I don't know whether it'd take your eye out.
I think we busted the heck out of this one.
Myth busted.
Yeah.
That's really disgusting.
What sort of foul play is this? Chickens soaking up the rays on a tanning bed? What urban myth could be solved in such a paltry fashion? The humble microwave oven. Is it a handy cooking device? Or mysterious machine with dark and frightening powers?
Microwaves just seem to be magnets for urban legends. So we're going to put some of the main ones to the test.
Whoa! You are the man.
Of all the myths surrounding the microwave oven, none is more famous than the story of the poodle sent for a spin in a microwave to dry its fur. The result? One hot dog. Well, meet Jazzy, a 2-year-old show poodle. Jazzy's being groomed for her MythBusters guest appearance, so we'll come back later to check how she's doing. Meanwhile, it's time to turn up the heat on microwave myth number 1. 30 million Americans tan indoors at salons like this. And in recent years, one microwave myth has caught on and spread like good quality tanning lotion.
Have you actually heard the myth of the tanning bed cooking the insides of the bride-to-be?
Oh, yes.
There's a woman who's getting ready for a special occasion, and she decides she'll look fabulous in her dress if she's very tan. So she goes to a tanning salon, and she's very annoyed that they have this half-hour daily limit on tanning. So she goes there, and then she goes to several other places and basically is tanning for hours a day. After a few days of this, her husband says, "Honey, you smell kind of funny. So she showers, you still smell kind of funny. So she goes to the doctor, and the doctor does numerous tests, upon which he finds that she's microwaved her internal organs and only has 2 weeks to live.
Rick Mattoon is director of the National Tanning Training Institute.
How many different versions of the story have you heard over the years?
We have a tendency of getting a different version about every month for about the past 4 years that I've been involved in the indoor tanning industry.
Do you keep an archive of all the stories that you've gotten?
I do, and it's very interesting. It's picked up typically anywhere, or it grows anywhere from the local level to a national level. And bottom line is, it always has a tendency to go back to the microwaving theory or story.
Can a tanning bed act like a microwave oven? Will overexposure result in a baked bladder as well as a golden glow? How are Adam and Jamie going to test this myth? The simplest way would be to strip off and submit to the simulated sunlight. But they don't look like the tanning types.
No, I think it's really quite obvious that I don't tan. Not at all. Just why I've got to wear these glasses in the sun.
So that explains why these chickens have been plucked from the local deli. They'll give the birds 4 straight sessions on the bed and see whether or not the result is lunch.
This is right up there with one of the weirder things that we've had to do. Trying to put a dead chicken in a tanning booth? Hello?
Time to see if the chicken's goose has been cooked.
So how many sessions did these go through?
4 sessions, a total of 48 minutes on the tanning lights.
So if I'd been in here, I'd be pretty badly burned by now.
You would have a severe sunburn at this point.
But would your gizzards be goners?
Not at all. Pink and perfect. Not cooked on the inside at all.
Basically, there's no difference between overstaying your welcome on a tanning bed and spending too long in the sun.
Now, this story has been told and retold so many times, it's a very popular narrative. Indeed, it was published in at least 2 Dear Abby columns, so it's got a lot of veracity. A lot of people believe it. Also, the industry magazine, Tanning Trends, had to publish an article telling people that it's not true, don't worry about it, but clearly the narrative is still out there.
Do tanning beds put out microwaves?
They put out nothing of the sort. They put out light waves, and that's all there is to it.
Besides, for the myth to work, microwaves would have to cook from the inside out, and that's easily tested. Simply throw a roast in a microwave for 20 minutes and carve.
Look at that. I mean, it's totally cold on the inside. It's not heating from the inside out. It's definitely heating from the outside in.
Yeah. The myth is totally busted.
Apart from testing these microwave myths, Jamie also wants to build the microwave oven from hell. Let's take a moment to find out how microwaves actually work. A microwave oven uses radio waves to cook food. A device called a magnetron bombards the inside of the oven with radio waves, which react with water molecules in the food, causing them to vibrate at enormous speed. That friction creates heat, which cooks the food.
The Amana radar range microwave oven is quality.
In the early days, it was hailed as a revolutionary kitchen
It's
convenience.
a family-sized turkey. 675 watts of cooking power means faster cooking than most other microwave ovens. Uses 50 to 75% less energy than a conventional electric range. 5 and 30-minute timers with automatic defrost cycle.
This store has been selling microwaves ever since those heady times.
The main thing I'm interested in personally is raw power.
Well, the average microwave today is about 1,100 watts, but you can go up from there or you can go down from there. How many people are going to be using the oven?
One very strange television show.
Just one.
Is this the soul of the microwave oven?
More the heart of the microwave. This is a little radio transmitter, and you plug it in and it converts it to DC voltage, and out comes the microwave.
And it looks like Jamie's suffering a little microwave madness.
Sorry.
Did you get enough, Jamie?
Microwaves are really cool, you know, they're like X-ray guns. And I think the same thing that makes people afraid of them and makes them generate a lot of myths about them is what's always fascinated me. I'm gonna, you know, make this super powerful microwave gun that I can heat things up around in my shop with. And, you know, that for me is a lot of fun.
I think he wants to take apart all these microwaves and make some kind of super microwave. And I don't know if he's planned on shielding or anything, but I don't necessarily want to be in the building when he does it.
Back at the workshop, it's time to test microwave myth number 2. That microwaving metal makes the oven explode.
You know, I once had a roommate where I accidentally put a spoon in my coffee cup in the microwave, and he refused to use it ever again. Made me buy him a new one.
Wow.
It's just those kind of misconceptions I want to clear up here on MythBusters.
Yeah.
There you go.
Adam and Jamie are going to microwave several metal objects. Just in case something dramatic does occur, the pair will watch from behind a Lexan shield. Lexan is a bulletproof material used in the windshields of NASCARs. It's time for the first metallic test subject. No, nothing happening there.
Spoon's been in there for 2 minutes. I don't see nothing. Turn it off. So, I mean...
I'm guessing if...
Ah! Ooh. The spoon was really hot. That spoon was really hot, but it didn't do anything.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't arc, it didn't, like, buzz or, you know, all that stuff.
Something else from the silverware drawer, perhaps?
Fork in the microwave.
Maybe the sharp prongs will cause sparks to fly.
Oh, yeah, that's thrilling.
Not a thing.
Adam and Jamie have heard that tin foil scrunched into a ball can have an effect.
Oh, that's cool! Feels like something out of Star Trek.
It's beautiful, actually.
Now,
Really?
that's interesting. The microwaves are causing an electric charge to build up in the metal. Scrunching the foil allows the charge to jump the gaps. Jamie tries again, this time folding the foil into an accordion shape.
Whoa! The Heinemann with the precognitive technique. Look at that!
That's the best.
Dude, you are the man. It just goes.
Spectacular, yes, but explosive? No. A warning though, microwaving metal might result in magnetron meltdown.
So metal in a microwave, is it true or is it false?
Well, that's false with provisions. Only in the case of an object that is made out of metal that is contacting the sides, you can create some arcing there that would feed back into the magnetron and reduce its lifespan.
That's 2 myths done and busted. Meanwhile, what's Jamie up to? Does he have a screw loose? Jamie's harvested the magnetrons from 4 microwaves. Looks like he's serious about building that super microwave machine. Scary stuff.
Microwave oven.
So we know metal won't turn your microwave into a bomb. It's time now for Adam and Jamie to investigate a microwave myth that is potentially lethal.
If you overheat water in a microwave, you may take the cup out of the bowl and then the water is going to explode in your face, injuring you or burning you in some horrific way.
We're gonna time how long it takes to bubble.
After a little research, Adam and Jamie know that the only way water could explode is if it's being superheated, that is, heated beyond boiling point, without actually boiling. Tap water always boils because it has impurities. Distilled water has no impurities. That means no boiling.
Yeah, the smaller experiments, you know, they look a lot simpler because they're tabletop, you know, we have small amount of variables, and really invariably they turn out to be the most complex and difficult ones to get a real result from.
They put 2 cups of water in the microwave, 1 distilled, 1 tap. When the tap water boils, they'll know that the distilled water has become superheated. Just dropping in a sugar cube should make the boiling process happen instantly and violently.
Hey!
Spectacular.
That would suffice.
That was exploding water?
It erupted, it left the container.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of it.
If someone were holding the cup, they would definitely have severe burns. But if straight tap water can't explode, how likely is it that people will be scalded by exploding beverages?
On your average day in your average house, it's not very likely. However, with the hundreds of millions of people using microwaves every day to boil water, reboil water, I'd say it could happen a few times a year around, around the world. Myth, absolutely true.
Finally, Jamie's finished playing Dr. Frankenstein.
What we have here is a super duper microwave oven. I've taken the guts out of 4 microwaves, the magnetrons, and I've put them in a box, all aiming at a single glass of water. So in theory, this should heat up that glass of water about 4 times as fast as a regular microwave would. Maybe it'll just go, we'll find out.
Jamie, I'm ready to test this infernal machine of yours, but could you wrap me up a little more? I don't feel quite safe yet.
What are you, a turkey?
I wouldn't say Jamie's an evil genius.
I know, this could be a wonderful mousetrap.
I'm not sure he's evil, and I'm not sure he's a genius, but
We're ready for a mega microwave test firing.
What, about 30 seconds?
Jamie flicks the switch. The room's filled with an angry buzz.
How come my watch has stopped? I'm gonna give it.
What on earth is happening behind those metal walls?
let's put the temperature probe in.
That doesn't look like it's boiling.
No, in fact, 66 degrees. You've made a refrigerator.
That's amazing.
For all that humming, you ended up with bupkis.
Looks like that's the evil genius theory out the window. Time for the final myth, the famous poodle in the microwave. It's the moment of truth for our guest star, Jazzy, who's been primped and preened to perfection. Or is it?
There's some things that even we on MythBusters can't do, and I think this is one of them. There's just no way that we could put a poodle in a microwave. It might dry her hair, but it'd kill the dog.
Fortunately for the viewers, this one's just gonna have to remain a legend. The story that we're looking at is from 1942.
One of the most bizarre urban myths of all comes from wartime USA and involves America's queen of comedy, Lucille Ball.
I had some dental work to be done. You know, they put in temporary fillings. I was just driving along, and a road that I'd taken many times, and all of a sudden, I heard music. But I mean, with a great beat, you know. And I looked down to turn off my radio, and it wasn't on. And the music was getting louder and louder and louder, and I realized it was in my mouth. And it was beating in my ears. I could hear the tune and everything. I recognized the tune.
The following morning at work, comedy legend Buster Keaton offered this explanation for the ghostly tune.
And he said, what street were you on, Moore Park? And I said, yes. He said, you went by the radio station. You picked it up. Well, you got any fillings? I said, yes. He said, you picked it up in your teeth. Well, I could hardly wait to go by there again.
Here's a challenge Adam and Jamie can really get their teeth into. Is it possible to receive radio transmissions through the fillings in your mouth?
We need to get a skull.
2 of the skull's teeth will be given different fillings. One gold, the other amalgam.
Also, obviously have to have some sort of a radio transmitter.
That transmitter will pump radio frequencies into the air around the teeth. A voltmeter will monitor any change in electrical activity across the fillings.
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
First question, where are you most likely to come across a spare cranium?
The number 4, the bone room. The number 4, UCSF School of Anatomy. The number 4, UCSF Dental School. I'm looking for a human skull. Do you guys have any skulls?
A rental?
Yes.
Finding a skull is hard enough. Finding one complete with fillings, well, that's another matter.
One with fillings. Would any of them happen to have fillings in them? So you don't have any with fillings right now? There's a dental chair.
Eventually, Adam tracks down a skull. It's his father's. Well, his father owns it, that is. Next step, a little dental work.
Hi, doctor.
That's a grody-looking skull. Okay. That of a real dead person?
Yes.
You bet. not got much teeth left. He has trouble eating his steak these days.
This guy have a name?
He's a very dried out teeth.
Smells the same as it usually does.
Yeah.
I have 7,000 patients. I'm a practicing dentist. Never in my career of being a practitioner for 30 years had anybody complain to me they were picking up sounds or signals from their fillings.
Lucy, even in her later years, she was always at the dentist. She was always having some kind of dental work. I don't think she was blessed with great teeth.
If anyone should know about the state of Lucille Ball's teeth, it's Jim Brochu. He was her close friend, unofficial biographer, and one of the last people to see Lucy alive.
I spent every day with Lucy from, I would think, the middle of April of 1988 until the next year, April of 1989, when she died.
And her name is Lucille Ball. Come on!
And although the star mightn't have had great teeth, Jim's positive she was always of sound mind.
Lucy had no kind of psychosis. She didn't hear voices. She didn't put her faith in the supernatural.
Okay, Kay, don't be ridiculous. Well, you just met me.
Hey, listen, a chowhound doesn't have to wait for dinner to be hungry, you know.
Phase 2, Adam's on the trail of a radio transmitter.
A little bit of equipment, and I was wondering if you had them.
Now, this has to be easier than getting hold of a skull, right?
2-channel oscilloscope, like a sweep generator, with an oscillator
Wrong.
and an amplifier.
Seems these radio guys just aren't operating on Adam's wavelength.
He had no idea what a sweep generator even was.
This one had you kind of stressed out, didn't you?
Yeah, this one was a real bear, actually. It turns out that it's very difficult, number one, to get the equipment to generate a very powerful AM frequency, because that's been cracked down a lot, pirate radio stations and such.
Like all great stories, the Lucy legend has plenty of details that lend it credence.
Then there was the radio station, which is a 50,000 watt radio station that we understand now that there was some kind of clay in the ground that aided the transmission, that amplified the 50,000 watt transmission. So I associate that radio station as where she heard the music coming from that night as she passed by.
Things might be looking up for Adam in his hunt for that elusive radio gear. The Foothill Swap Meet is a Bay Area institution. Its stalls are a paradise for electronics enthusiasts. If he can't find what he needs here, he never will. Back at the workshop, this brass screen will shield the skull from outside interference during the tests.
The Faraday cage is, it's like a ground. It eliminates any radio waves from getting to the testing equipment, which makes our test, makes us know that our test is happening in a, experimentally clean space.
Of course, it works better if you can get into it.
I locked the door from the inside. All right. There's my Faraday cage. Let's see. No signal on the cell phone. No signal at all.
One theory is that if Lucy's fillings were made from different metals, then they might just have acted as what's known as a point contact diode.
Point contact diode is the basis of the earliest radio crystal sets. In fact, in World War II, soldiers in foxholes built what's called a foxhole radio, which we have a crude model of here, in which our point contact diode is simply a razor blade and a pencil lead.
Two different metals combining to capture a radio frequency.
I hear a buzz.
A pencil and a razor blade and some coiled, some common household objects. It seems unlikely that we could actually hear a radio signal from that, but we can.
Yeah, well, right now we're hearing a buzz. Yeah, We're pulling something out of the air.
Did Lucille Ball's fillings fleetingly become a primitive radio, picking up a signal and broadcasting it into her head?
Tune and everything. I recognized the tune.
One tooth already has an amalgam filling. We need another metal. And Adam and Jamie are going for gold.
That is real gold foil.
The teeth are placed inside the Faraday cage, along with a crude antenna made from a cardboard cylinder and insulated copper wire. 2 probes placed on the fillings will register any change in voltage.
So we're going to inject some modulated AM radio signal and see what the teeth generate on this voltmeter. Okay.
Frank Hausman has more than 20 years' experience in electronics and computer network engineering. He's agreed to become an honorary MythBuster
now, as I sweep
just for one day.
The RF field in that chamber, there's no change in the teeth.
Several radio frequencies are channeled into the Faraday cage, but the voltmeter doesn't flicker.
So if the teeth were acting as a diode, which is one of the theories about how they might pick up radio, we would see a change in voltage, but we didn't.
So, in this test, the fillings did not become a simple radio receiver. But even if Lucy's did, does it automatically follow that she'd have been able to hear the signal? Could our nerves transmit the frequency to the brain? Time to get wired for sound.
You should theoretically hear an audio tone. Just like that.
All in the name of science. All right, I'm ready to take the juice. Are you ready?
It's going to you. You can, you've got 0.4 millivolt.
I get it.
Are you on there? Do you feel anything? Okay. Take one off.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to turn it up to 300 millivolts. This is about the highest voltage I'm comfortable putting out into your head.
Of course, you say that. I'm just going to ask you to bump it up one more. No, I don't feel anything. I've just run it across several combinations of all my fillings.
But what if you had metal somewhere else in your head? In 1981, the Veterans Medical Center in Miami reported a remarkable case. A Vietnam veteran claimed he was picking up radio through shrapnel embedded in his skull.
He started to hear music, and then he became very frightened, very scared. He thought that he may be going psychotic, being delusional.
The man was successfully treated for post-traumatic stress disorder, but still, the band played on. It's the only case of this kind in the last half-century to be published by a medical journal. For Lucille Ball, the radio filling story didn't end when the music stopped. In fact, it got even zanier.
I was going up another street, almost home, and I was passing 4 vacant lots. And as I went by there, I heard, and I'm picking it up on my teeth. I stopped the car. Then I looked around, in the Morse code, like. And I couldn't wait to get back to MGM the next morning and tell the security office, and they found an underground Japanese transmitting radio station. Honest to God.
Is that a great story?
A great story, without a doubt. But Morse code? Tapped out through tooth fillings?
One of the theories is that it could be a galvanic reaction, i.e. that the, let's say you have 2 dissimilar metals in your fillings. You have a gold crown and an amalgam filling, that those in the solution of your saliva might actually be generating a small amount of electric current, like a battery. In that case, the galvanic reaction would be building up a charge that it was discharging, build up and discharge and build up and discharge, and you might actually think that was Morse code.
Jamie and Adam want to recreate what might have happened in Lucy's mouth. It's been a little while since this mouth saw any saliva, so Adam and Jamie are going to sit the teeth in vinegar. Vinegar's level of acidity should make it an excellent conductor.
That ought to be enough for a little galvanic resistance. I have the teeth in solution just so that they're, the metal of the teeth is both in the bath of vinegar and slightly above.
Okay, we'll set some probes next.
All right. We have positive contact on everything here. Great.
Adam and Jamie have heard the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor had just forced the United States to join the Second World War.
It was after they had taken the Japanese out of California and unfortunately put them in the camps.
With people fearing a full-scale Japanese invasion, panic and paranoia raged. Professor Rusty Capps was with the FBI. He now lectures on Japanese espionage during World War II.
There were all kinds of rumors after the attack on Pearl Harbor. There was one I'm aware of a Japanese submarine that fired, and I think the number is 20 or less than 20 rounds into a petroleum tank farm. There were also instances of Japanese trying to bomb America with high-altitude balloons that were going to drop incendiaries.
You didn't know how to reconcile this fear. So then suddenly you have Lucy, of all people.
Hey, what am I going to get, a kiss or a quart of milk?
If these incompetent Japanese people couldn't even get one over on Lucy, how could they hope to win out over our American military? So it's really a comforting tale for people of that time period. It's saying, well, they couldn't possibly win.
All in all, I'm quite pleased. Okay.
To test for a galvanic reaction, the probes are once again placed on the fillings.
But now we're seeing 7 millivolts.
Okay, let's see.
And if you lift the probe off,
Lifting.
it should go to 0. And there it is.
The fillings, reacting with the acid in the vinegar, are generating their own tiny current.
This voltage would probably be similar to what would be if someone had a meal and their pH of their mouth was around this vinegar, around 4.5, 5.
Right. That's right.
This might exist in their mouth.
That's right.
Was Lucy's spy message nothing more sinister than a reaction between her fillings and her saliva?
So it's possible someone could mistake that voltage discharge, if they had a nerve close to a filling, for something like Morse code. That discharge would be an oscillation and they would feel it. And it wouldn't be pleasant, actually.
A galvanic reaction can only occur in new fillings before the metal starts to corrode. Lucy's fillings were only a week old when the Morse code began to transmit.
It would be more helpful if she actually knew Morse code and was able to translate the message.
In 1994, 5 years after her death, Lucille Ball's FBI file was released to the public. All 142 pages refer to her involvement in the Communist Party. There's no mention of her role in foiling a Japanese spy network.
If it had been true, I can think of no reason why it wouldn't have been widely published. The FBI, you have to remember, like all law enforcement and counterintelligence services, has one basic rule. If it ain't on paper, it didn't happen. And one of the things that she's thinking about, I'm sure, as she comes forward is, well, how about my career? You know, I'm an actress, but if I'm also a war hero, if I'm also able to help the war effort in this way, I mean, it's going to raise my stock dramatically.
I don't know how much publicity this story actually got when it happened. I know eventually there was a Broadway show called Something for the Boys with her friend Ethel Merman in it. And that one part of Lucy's story about picking up the radio signals in her fillings was translated to this musical. I don't think Lucy had a reason to make up a story. I mean, she had a very rich, full life, full of wonderful stories that, you know, she wouldn't have to make one up about herself.
Adam, is the myth true or false?
I think definitively we've shown that 2 different types of fillings do not act as a rudimentary radio crystal, and that there is some potential voltage or battery action occurring if you've eaten a lot of acidic food and you do have different types of metals in your mouth.
It's busted.
Okay, we'll call it busted.
All right.
Thank you, Lucy, for
Pleasure.
talking about
I
yourself.
love it.
We'll,
On this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie are all smiles as they tackle a myth that's massive.
That's just about the funniest thing I've ever seen.
They're getting ready to unleash the biggest boom in MythBusters history.
Now he's off the ground.
Did a World War II airman survive a fall from 20,000 feet because an explosion on the ground cushioned his landing?
Jamie wants big boom.
Then Cary, Grant, and Tori turn the spotlight on the lights on or off myth as they find out how to leave you with a lighter electricity bill.
A little sugar in the coffee this morning?
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
Ants are all over my head, man.
And Jamie Heineman.
Gets me all worked up just looking at it.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
That was heavy.
Joining them, Grant Imahara.
Go get him, boy.
Tori Belleci.
Somebody order some exploding pants.
And Carrie Byron.
Oh, God.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. When it comes to explosions, the MythBusters are king. They've turned toilets torpedo. Tried a spot of painting and detonating. And of course, they blew a cement truck to kingdom come. But that's all in the past, because now Adam and Jamie are about to plan the biggest explosion in MythBusters history. There's nothing like starting with a bang.
Well, Calaveras County says it's okay. The quarry says it's okay. The police department and the bomb squad says it's okay. Can we blow this thing up?
No, we have to tell a whole story first, like always. And this one begins with a fan who wrote us about a story they've read on a calendar hanging in their house. A World War II gunner fell from a plane without a parachute, fell 22,000 feet into the glass roof of a French train station at the very moment a bomb went off in that train station, cushioning his fall and allowed him to survive.
It's a tall tale from World War II. Cruising at 22,000 feet, an unfortunate airman fell out of the gun turret of his plane. Without a parachute, the prospect of a soft landing looked awfully hard. But as he neared the ground, a 1,000-pound bomb blew up in a train station beneath him and sent out a shockwave that actually cushioned his fall. It's an explosive story that for Adam and Jamie begins with a trip to an aviation museum.
Well, the guy is supposed to have fallen out of a B-17 bomber, and here at the Castle Air Museum, they've got one for us to look at. It seems like a fine place to start. Now, we've got a myth that involves one of these planes. It involves a turret gunner who got shot out of the plane at 22,000 feet without a chute and survived because he hit the roof of a train station at the very moment a bomb was going off in that train station, and the shockwave of the bomb cushioned his fall and allowed him to live. Have you heard that?
I have heard instances, or one instance, where a gunner fell into a snowbank, which was about, I think, 19 or 20,000 feet, and came out of it with a broken limb. But I have not heard this story.
Although Joe hasn't heard of our myth, there's one part of it that's definitely true. B-17 ball gunners did not wear parachutes, and the reason is obvious.
You can see how confining that is.
So that's why they don't wear parachutes.
Exactly.
Dude, that is messed up.
Right, and hanging under this aircraft at several thousand feet.
You're target practice.
Basically.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, indeed. Without a parachute, the airman in the myth sure would have plummeted. But could a 1,000-pound explosion in a French train station really have saved him? It's time to get a MythBuster. But back at the shop, Adam's already having doubts.
I am starting to get worried about this one. 22,000-foot fall is shaping up to be like the biggest myth we have ever done.
Yeah, we really, really need to be prepared for this.
So we need your guys' help. We want to focus on the large-scale experiment, and we want you guys to do the bench tests for us, the small-scale experiments.
Aye, aye, Captain. What you need?
Well, I want you to start with car airbags. It seems to me the best potential analog test bed. They're easy to get, easy to set off, and they might really be able to demonstrate that an explosion can cause deceleration in something heading towards it.
It's going to be fun.
So to blast off with this myth, Carrie and Tori are going to find out if a falling lead weight can be slowed down by an explosive charge from a car airbag.
I've set up a drop rig. Basically, it's just a quick release and a pull string. And here I have a lead weight with my G-Shock stickers on it that go up to 100 Gs. And I'm going to do a quick test just to see how violent a fall this is going to be. This is how it works. We have a little glass tube inside here, and inside that is another little glass tube filled with a red dye. This is basically calibrated so that once the shock watch sticker reaches a certain deceleration, the tube inside will break and turn the outside tube red. So if you get a red mark, then you know that it's reached, 100 Gs, 50 Gs, 75 Gs.
That's the theory, but before using any explosives, Carrie must first calibrate the shock watches, and a simple drop test should do just that.
3, 2, 1. Let's see what we got.
So it looked like it broke 2 of them.
Only 2?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's between 75 and 100 Gs.
So without the bang, both the 50 and 75 G watches triggered. That means that now the question is, will an airbag explosive decelerate the ball so much that these shock stickers stay intact?
So now that I've got my ball all redressed with new shock watch stickers, the next step is to drop the lead weight directly onto just the pyrotechnic, no enclosure. We want to see what kind of deceleration you can get from just the blast.
To find out, Tori first removes the airbag bag from the pyrotechnic charge.
Hey, there's a penny in here.
What?
I guess they put that in there for good luck.
And once that's done, our dynamic duo put it inside a miniature house to represent the train station of the myth.
We've taken the pyrotechnic out of the airbag rig. We've placed it inside of this little Benjamin Franklin house, and hopefully Tori's timing will be impeccable. He will set off the pyrotechnic at the exact same time that we pull the string, and everything will work out beautifully, and the whole myth will be proof of concept right here.
You know there'll be trouble when it all sounds so easy.
How are we gonna time this?
I'm just gonna watch the ball fall, and at the point where I think I should ignite the airbag, that's when I'm gonna do it. I mean, for this to even remotely work, it's all about the timing, so that's why I'm doing it by eye. It's very crucial that I do it by eye.
With a plan as concrete as that, what could possibly go wrong?
Ready?
In 3, 2,
Oh, what the heck is that?
and now it's too sensitive.
You went 3 and you followed.
No, it
Saboteur.
It seems like Carrie has dropped the ball. Let's try that again.
In 3, 2, 1.
There was a delayed reaction there.
But this time, it was Tori who balls things up.
In 3, 2, 1.
Take 3 doesn't go much better.
In 3, 2, 1. Oh, it might be a dud, huh?
And after the 4th dropout, it's looking like the team need a plan B. In 22,000-foot fall, the MythBusters are testing whether a turret gunner who plummeted from his plane without a parachute was really saved by a massive explosion on the ground that cushioned his fall. To put this to the test, Carrie and Tori have been trying to see if a small explosive can decelerate a falling lead ball. But it's not exactly gone to plan. And in the meantime, Adam and Jamie need to get on with the big-scale plans.
Well, the small-scale experiment is underway. Next, we have to tackle the big scale.
Yeah, we've got a lot ahead of us. We've got to do the train station, the bomb. We've got to replicate our airman and his 22,000-foot fall.
Where do you want to start?
There's such a shopping list for this myth that the boys don't know where to begin. They need a plane to bail out of, an airman to plummet without a parachute, a train station for him to fall into, and a huge bomb to blow up. Let's start with the station.
Our airman fell into a French train station with a glass roof. And those aren't that common in California, so we have to build our own. The goal is to use a bunch of steel and 2-foot by 2-foot panes of glass. And I've designed something that's got some arches. It feels kind of like the right thing. And it should give us a a good idea of whether the explosion or the glass or maybe even the steel structure actually broke his fall.
Adam may have designed it, but it's Jamie and Jess that get to build it. And with welding skills like this, it's not long before the station frame begins to look très magnifique.
Those things seem about right, so I think we're good to lock it down.
Which gives Adam an excuse to move on to myth shopping list number 2, the bomb.
The original bomb that the myth involves is a 1,000-pound bomb whose casing weighs on the order of several hundred pounds. That's just the casing alone without the explosives. So we wanted a metal casing that was as heavy as possible, and this actually fits the bill perfectly for us. This started out as the Sharammer for the Shark Special. Then morphed into the XMB for exploding hair cream.
Dude, that was a hell of a result. Wow.
Became the steam cannon. Yeah! And now its final task will be as a bomb casing for us for 22,000-foot fall.
This steel tube has had a series of cameo appearances on MythBusters, but not for much longer. As Adam converts it into a casing for a 1,000-pound bomb, its days are numbered.
So we'll need 6 pieces of that.
With the casing and the train station running on time, now the boys just need a B-17 bomber and an airman. But that's not going to be so easy.
So, in terms of dropping our airmen, we can't drop them from 22,000 feet because, well, number one, we can't get any aircraft to fly over an explosion no matter how high they are, and we can't aim from that height and make them hit such a tiny target.
Well, why don't we use balloons? I mean, we've lifted you with a balloon before.
Perfect. I'll tell you what, all we need is to get him up to 120 miles an hour. That's a human's terminal velocity. We know that from umpteen myths we've done about people falling. So I'll figure out exactly how high he has to fall from in order to reach 120 miles per hour. And we'll just fly the balloons that high.
The key to this myth is terminal velocity, the maximum speed at which an object can fall. It's reached when gravity is matched by the force of wind resistance, which for humans works out at around 120 miles an hour. So all Adam has to do is work out the minimum drop height required to reach that magic number.
Basically, he's got to fall for 5.5 seconds to reach 120 miles per hour. And that puts him at 487 feet in the air. That's totally doable.
Yeah, all things considered, it's the cheapest, it's the most practical way to go, and I can't see anything better.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
All right.
So that's the plan. Instead of a B-17 bomber at 22,000 feet, they'll drop Buster from some weather balloons at 500 feet. Just enough for him to reach terminal velocity as he lands in the exploding train station. And when it comes to working with weather balloons, Adam is the expert bar none. After all, in only the 3rd episode of MythBusters, it was our very own Mr. Savage who sailed to new heights in a lawn chair, complete with beer in hand.
Cheers. Now, these are meant to normally be filled to between 6 and 8 feet, but they have a bursting diameter of 23 feet. I'm actually going to go somewhere in between, filling them to probably about 10 or 12 feet, which means hopefully it'll take maybe 10 to raise our hero and all of his commensurate equipment above our glass roof.
So with the balloons checked off, Adam and Jamie have almost all they need to put this myth to the test. The only thing missing is the results from Tori and Carrie's small-scale experiment. And back at M7, it seems that everything is finally ready to see if a small explosion can decelerate a falling lead ball. And Tori's about to add the finishing touch.
What I have here is a piece of 16th-inch glass, and since the myth talks about the man falling through a glass roof, we thought, why don't we use a piece of glass? So what we're going to do is we're going to lay this on top of the explosion, drop the ball into this, and see if, this breaks the fall.
With the glass roof in place, it's the perfect small-scale representation of the myth. But will the ball, playing the role of the airman, slow down at all?
If I can time it right, hopefully, when the ball just touches the glass, I'll set off the airbag and break the fall of the ball. Well, okay, considering we're going to be blowing up a sheet of glass, it's probably a good idea if we give ourselves a little bit of protection.
In 3, 2, 1. So destruction. Did the bomb go off?
Yeah, that was a good one.
At last, the airbag explosive detonated, and with perfect timing. Mere moments before the ball touches the glass, the explosion was triggered, spraying glass shards far and wide.
Adding the glass actually seemed to do more harm than it did good because it seemed to rip all the shock watches off the ball. So explosion and glass, that doesn't seem to be a good combination right now.
With the shock watches torn off, it's impossible to tell whether the ball slowed down. So to find out, they're going to drop the ball again onto another pane of glass. But this time, there'll be no explosion. Then, by comparing both high speeds, they should be able to see whether the ball falls at the same rate on each test.
Next, what we're going to do, we're going to drop the ball again into the glass, no explosion this time, and just see how that decelerates the ball.
In 3, 2, 1.
Cool.
Oh, looks like the sticker stayed.
There's more glass shards than an accident at a chandelier factory. But what happened to the ball's speed? Well, side by side, it's clear that the explosion did very little. The balls fall virtually the same in each test, and that's got Carrie ready to make some early conclusions.
At this point, based on what we've seen and done, the myth of the gunner falling 22,000 feet, landing on top of a glass-roofed train station at the exact same moment that a bomb goes off during World War II, I can pretty much, for myself, definitively say it's busted.
If I was going to fall on a glass roof, I would not want a bomb going off underneath it.
We are still going to have to take this to the full scale.
Why? Because it's going to be frickin' cool.
Well, Carrie, we're at a point with the large-scale build that we could use the information that you've gotten from your small-scale testing. What do you got?
You know, it's still a little dubious, because you got to think about the fact that the shock wave, it's going at you at 25,000 feet per second. You're falling at 176 feet per second, and when you hit, you know, it's not exactly an equal and opposite reaction, so what do you think? Also, you got to consider that there's glass shrapnel flying everywhere.
You know, look, I think these guys did a great job. We know that the devil is always in the details and the scaling. I'm starting to believe from the research we got that this guy did survive. It's a true story. We just don't know how, and there may be something that we're missing in the small-scale experiments that'll pick up when we do this full size. We have to continue doing this full size.
Sure.
I wish you all the luck in the world with this one.
Carrie, Tori, and Grant are about to test a household myth with the flick of a switch. Do you really save on energy and your electricity bill if you leave your lights on permanently, rather than turn them on and off throughout the day?
Now, this is a myth that can divide a household. Let's take our little family, for instance. Has anybody noticed that Jamie follows you around the shop, flipping off lights after you leave just to save energy? It's really, really annoying. So the idea here, I guess, is will you save on energy and bills if you leave the lights continually on rather than flipping them off every time you leave the room?
Yeah, actually, some people believe that the startup energy usage is so high, it's better to leave the lights on all the time.
Finally, everything was ready for the turning of the main switch on the control board.
Ever since the invention of the first electric light bulb in the 1800s, people have continually proposed that to save money, you should actually leave your lights on, even if you don't need them. Decades down the line, and it's time for the MythBusters to find the truth.
All right, so how are we going to test this one?
I think we should measure the amount of energy consumed when you turn the light on, start up, and compare that to the amount of energy consumed over a period of time. So I call that steady state.
Yeah, that's cool. That way we can figure out if Jamie's actually saving any money flipping on and off the lights.
Yeah.
So the team will finally shed some light on a myth that's been around since the end of the Dark Age. But first, they need to do some shopping, which will highlight another question. How many MythBusters does it take to buy a light bulb?
My name's Mark.
Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Grant?
Hi, Grant.
How you doing, Tori?
Hi, Tori.
Okay, Mark, so the myth is it better to leave your lights on or turn them off in order to save energy, increase the lifespan of your light bulbs, that sort of thing?
The optimum energy efficiency is simply turning your lights off.
Well, you heard it from the professional. Myth busted. I think we're done. This is the shortest myth ever, right?
Hey, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, this is
Mark may think this myth is all hot air, but the team hasn't come this far to give up without a fight. Heavily laden with a selection of the most common household light bulbs, it's back to base to turn the spotlight on this myth.
Well, first up, we're going to wire up a set of lights of several different varieties and measure their power consumption. And we're interested in 3 periods. First, power consumption during startup. Second, during maintenance, while it's sort of on. And then finally, during shutdown.
That's the plan. The only problem is that electronics whiz kid Grant may be losing his spark for electronics.
Well, apparently there is a rumor going around that I'm getting a little tired of doing all these electronic stories. So perhaps it's time for me to pass on my knowledge to an apprentice, someone who could, just step into that role whenever we need that. And I think Carrie is showing some interest in that.
Carrie's as keen as a bean to become Grant's apprentice. And first up, it's wiring 101.
The hot wire is 120 volts above ground. The hot wire is the one that'll kill you, so don't touch the hot wire.
These will explode, these will melt, this will kill you. This is great.
You had no
Great.
idea
This
how
is-
dangerous my world was.
With Carrie wired about the danger, she helps carefully rig up all the lights the team bought earlier, including Grant's favorite.
That is wacky.
If anything was going to rekindle his interest in electronics, it's this.
Little sugar in the coffee this morning?
Just love electronics.
In 22,000-foot fall, Adam and Jamie are having a blast. Can the shockwave from a massive bomb cushion the fall of a plummeting person? To detonate an answer, they've come to a quarry in Southern California. But it's only just dawned on them that there's an awful lot to do.
Well, we've got to build our train station out here, pretty much right where I'm standing. Then we've got to lay out all the rigging hardware and launch hardware for the helium balloon and the drop rig. Then we've got to meet with our bomb techs and pretty much, hopefully, if everything gets done correctly, fill the balloons with helium, get the dummy up in the air, get in place, and blow this thing to smithereens.
Blow this thing to smithereens, and how? In the original myth, an airman fell 22,000 feet into an exploding train station and survived. But to test this, the MythBusters have made some alterations. They're replacing the plane with some helium balloons, the airman with Buster, and the 22,000 feet with 500. Buster will fall down a guide wire into the train station just as a 1,000-pound bomb goes ballistic.
That's a bomb.
The bomb casing's good to go, but they won't put the explosives in until everything else is ready. Starting with the replica French train station.
There we go. Here's another one.
But with 54 panes of glass, there's a real risk that when the bomb goes boom, this will turn into the House of Flying Daggers, something which Jamie is rather upset about.
The only bad thing about this is it actually is quite nice. It's, we got the little kind of radiating spines, and it's pretty, but it's going to go away pretty soon.
While Jamie's feeling sad about the train station's imminent demise, Buster is feeling overjoyed because he's had a last-minute reprieve.
So Buster is not our test dummy on this one. The Carrie, Tori, and Grant actually have made one out of ballistic material, and his name is Ted, as in Bust Ted.
Or as in Exploit Ted, Detonate Ted, and Annihilate Ted. And to help Ted assume the role of turret gunner, he's been squeezed into a tiny box.
What happened to his head?
Well, it got broken up because they put him in.
Because he's too tall for the box.
He's too tall for the box.
We'll see whether he starts to sag in the noonday heat.
With the temperature already a mind-melting 115 degrees, sagging in the noonday heat is about all that Adam and Jamie can do, too.
Well, look, everything's pretty much done. The train station's done, the bomb is laid, the guy wire positions are staked out.
You're sounding pretty tired. Are you all right?
I'm exhausted, man. It's like 115 degrees out here. I'd like to go and come back like an hour before dawn tomorrow to set this thing off.
Sure.
Yeah?
Fresh pot of coffee. This thing won't be so hot that it's going to go off when we load the explosives in it.
Exactly. All right, let's get out of here.
All right.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are turning the spotlight on a myth that's divided households for decades. To save money, is it really better to leave your lights on and never turn them off? The theory is that the energy required on startup is so great that it's better to turn your lights on once and then leave them on forever. To find out if this is true, the team has made a circuit that contains the most common household light bulbs. And now it's time to get some data.
So now we're getting down to the very serious part of the story. This is the part of the story we're actually going to measure how much power each of these light bulbs is going to draw, first during the startup, and then during the running time, and of course during the shutdown.
And to determine the power consumption, electronics guru Grant has the perfect gadget.
So in order to measure how much power each of these lamps is consuming, we have this, which is called a kilowatt. And basically it's available at any hardware store. And what you do is plug in your appliance, or in our case, a lamp, into this, and it will measure over a time period how much electricity you're using.
So, using Grant's kilowatt, the first step in this myth is to work out how much energy each of the bulbs uses when left on for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And to help the team remember that time's up, Grant's even rigged an alarm.
Okay, 60 minutes on the clock. This is going to count up to that. As soon as that happens, bell's going to ring, and we'll know to come running, take down the measurement, and reset it for the next one.
And first up is one of the most common lights of all, the compact fluorescent bulb. And an hour later, well, the alarm works, but how did the bulb do?
0.1 kilowatt hour. Yeah, you can. This one's 0.1 kilowatt hour. Sorry, 0.01 kilowatt hour.
Okay.
So in terms of data, it's one bulb down, 5 to go.
Okay, so next one, halogen light. Here we go. 60 minutes.
Go!
Okay, see you guys in an hour.
All right.
The next 5 tests pass by at light speed as the team puts incandescent bulbs, fluorescent tubes, LEDs, halogens, and metal halides to the test. And after an enlightening afternoon, they have all the data they could ever need.
So, great.
Over the course of an hour, all 6 bulbs were surprisingly efficient. So if the startup energy surge is as high as the myth says, then it may well be better to leave your lights on permanently. But before testing that, Grant has a burning childhood ambition that he wants to fulfill. And he's very excited.
Here at the Livermore Fire Department, they have a light bulb that's been burning for 105 years. I really want to see this.
Well, you could be really excited about seeing a light bulb.
It is. I can't even get a light bulb to burn for 105 days.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm Grant.
Hi, Grant. I'm Chief Jeff Solfarelli. Welcome to the LPFD.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Carrie.
Carrie, how do you do?
We hear you have a light bulb that's been burning for 105 years.
Actually, it's now up to 106 years. That's correct. Your information is good.
Is that the light right there?
That is our light. There she hangs as she is.
Ah, cool.
Okay.
The light has a webcam and it has a gadget.
The light has a webcam.
So
Yes, it does.
That's how you know that it never goes off. It's got its own dedicated camera.
And that's how she's been for about the last 105, 106 years.
Cool.
Yeah, It's amazing.
106 years, and it's still bright as a button. And Grant has spotted why.
Look how big the filament is. I mean, even from down here, I can see how massive it is.
This is what they call a carbon filament. And the newer ones we have are the more exotic metals. Some of them are titanium. So it's much thinner, and it puts out a lot more light, burns a lot hotter. This doesn't burn as hot.
With memories to savor for a lifetime, Grant and Carrie head back to the shop to take this myth to its nail-biting conclusion that could leave you with a lighter electricity bill. Adam and Jamie have built a replica train station and bomb casing as they prepare to take the plunge on the myth of the 22,000-foot fall. Supposedly, a World War II airman fell from his plane but was miraculously saved when an explosion on the ground cushioned his fall. To put this to the test, the MythBusters have replaced the plane with some helium balloons and the airman with ballistics gel Ted. And the bomb countdown is not far away.
It's pre-dawn. It's now time to fill all of our balloons with enough buoyancy to lift our airmen to 500 feet. And we're out here as early as we could possibly be to try and beat both the heat and the wind. It picks up pretty early. And actually, also for the bomb techs, we're trying to beat the humidity. We want to do this when it's still pretty humid so we reduce the chance of fire.
And if the pressure in the balloons isn't enough to keep Adam and Jamie on their toes, retired FBI agent Frank Doyle has arrived with some news to make the atmosphere even more tense.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Morning. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
How's it going, Phil?
If you have any influence with the weatherman, now's a good time to make the telephone call because see all of our clouds and overcast up there? That's not good for explosions because that cloud cover will keep our pressures and our noise down so that everything will bounce up, come back down, and go out. And I hope there's no neighborhood windows nearby.
This much explosives won't just blow a hole right through the cloud cover. It doesn't work that way.
You've been watching too much television.
While TV addict Jamie waits on the weather, Frank and colleague Phil get on with loading up alarmingly large amounts of explosives.
A 1,000-pound GP bomb has a little bit over 500 pounds of HE in it, high explosive, and the rest is the metal of the steel case. So that's what we have gone to great lengths to duplicate here in creating an authentic situation for our myth.
500 pounds of high explosives should ensure authenticity. But how will this train station detonation compare to previous MythBusters mayhem?
Of course, we've done a very large 3,500-pound safe.
Wow, that worked beautifully.
Now with the cement truck, we used a different kind of explosive. It had a slower detonating velocity as compared to this explosive. This explosive is about 3 times faster.
If the train station torpedo is faster than this, then what can we expect?
I think this is going to be the biggest one.
So, stand by for the biggest explosion in MythBusters history. And with the balloons all inflated, it's time for Airman Ted to rise to the occasion.
Ted, you ready? 500-foot drop, and history is yours.
To get things airborne, the boys have rigged a clever pulley system that should allow them to precisely control the ascent of the balloons and Airman Ted. At least, that's the theory.
Everybody on the winches! You're about to start to get a little tension.
3, 2, 1.
Ho! Heads up!
Houston, we have a problem.
I lost it.
The cord tethering Ted suddenly snapped, which means the balloons are up, but our airman is still grounded.
Watch out for the cable.
That one's gone.
And then things take a turn for the worse when some of the balloons start to burst. And as Adam's about to learn, that is very bad news indeed.
Are you guys totally slack?
Yeah.
That's it. We're officially screwed. We lost our buoyancy.
With 3 balloons down, there's just not enough helium to get Ted up. And what's more, the fire team says it's now too hot to safely detonate the bomb. So for today, the show's over. Understandably, the boys are feeling a little deflated.
Murphy is in full force here today. And now it's too late, because not only did we have some setbacks, but those setbacks pushed us past the window that we had to set this thing off.
Ted's not holding up very well either. That's another whole can of worms. So I think we're going to have to come up with a dynamic solution in the next 15 minutes so that he doesn't just turn into a puddle with grass embedded in it by tomorrow morning.
It's savable. The structure is still here. The balloons, the bulk of the balloons are still here. The dummy's still here. The rigging's still here. I think we're good, but we've just got to wait until the fire danger is a little lower.
So, with the provision of a makeshift bed for Airman Ted, it's time to sleep on this myth until the early hours of tomorrow.
Let's go rest up.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are testing a myth that came to light with the genesis of the common light bulb. Do you save on energy and money by leaving your lights on to avoid the power surge that flicking the switch generates? Well, Carrie, at least, is not convinced.
Well, I always switch off the lights because it just seems pretty intuitive to me that you turn off the lights, you're gonna save energy and save your light bulb. Other members of my household, they have much more important things to think about.
To answer this important question once and for all, the team are halfway through their experiment. They found out how much energy 6 types of light bulb use when they're on, and now they need to see how this compares to the energy surge that happens on startup. And for this test, Grant unveils gadget number 2.
This is an inductive current loop, and what you do is pass your wire through here, and as the current flows through here, it actually induces a voltage. This line is going to go to a computer-based digital sampling oscilloscope. So in that millisecond range, that really quick turn on, I'll be able to capture that and measure exactly how much current is going through that wire.
With Grant's electrical mastermind firing on all cylinders, Carrie once again turns apprentice.
Soon you'll be able to do this blindfolded. Open your mind to your feelings. Feel the wire.
I have no idea what that's from.
Yeah.
When the test finally gets underway, it doesn't take long for a pattern to start to emerge.
So the interesting thing, after a couple different trials, we've caught there's always a big spike on startup as the filament warms up, which is to be expected, but it's not very long, and actually it gets to steady state very quickly. But I think we're probably going to have to hold our judgment till we see some of the other ones.
So it's coming to light that the energy surge used on startup is not very big at all. And that means that only a few calculations stand between Grant and a bright conclusion of the lights on or off myth.
So, crunch the numbers, and here's what I got for the incandescent. Total power used during startup is 21,522 watt seconds. Total power for 1 second is 59,519 watt seconds. And that makes our break-even time 0.36 seconds.
Okay, so from that, I guess that means I'm leaving the room to go make a cup of coffee. It's only worth it for me, economically, to keep the light on if I come back in 1/3 of a second.
Yeah, that's pretty quick. That'd be a really quick brew coffee.
Okay, so in this instance, I am turning the lights off when I leave the room.
Yes.
A quick brew indeed. For the incandescent bulb, the startup surge is so small that you will always save money if you turn it off when it's not needed.
Stand by for the next.
Grant keeps plugging away and soon has the results for the other 5 bulbs, and they all conform to this pattern.
Okay, I got the compact fluorescent figures. 0.015 seconds. Faster than you can blink your eye. Halogen, 0.51 seconds.
Okay, fluorescent tube.
23.3 seconds.
So the common fluorescent tube draws more energy on startup than any of the other bulbs. But it's still only equivalent to 23 seconds of continuous use.
As far as a residential situation goes, that is the most likely one for you to have. Still, 23 seconds? I don't think so.
we'd like to cast a little more light on the subject. After much research, we've been unable to find another man like our hero, who is the chef's delight. He won't blow a fuse no matter what you set before him.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are trying to digest that the cost of switching on a fluorescent tube is equivalent to just 23 seconds of continuous light, at a meager 0.36 of a second for a common incandescent bulb.
Modern replica?
Which means it's looking like it's always best to turn your lights off when you don't need them.
So far, this myth is looking really easily busted to me. I mean, I don't think that there's any way you're gonna save money by leaving the lights on all the time.
I mean, unless you have a room filled with fluorescents and you only plan on being out of the room for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but I think that's only half the story. I think our fans are probably wondering, as I am, how this affects the longevity of the bulbs.
So you want to test to see if the number of times you turn the light bulb on and off has an effect on the lifetime of the bulb.
In a final test, specimen bulbs are lighted and allowed to burn out.
So the final test, before reaching a bright conclusion, is to see whether the money you save turning your lights on and off more regularly means that you spend your savings replacing your bulbs more often.
Well, it's not just energy consumption that figures into whether it's better to leave the lights on or turn them off. It's also longevity of the lamps. So what I've set up is a little timer plus a relay. What I'm going to do is take this group of lamps and turn them all on and off at some predetermined time interval.
So why don't we just put this on a 2-minute cycle?
So that's the plan. Grant's rigged the lights up to a timer, and they're going to turn them on and off every 2 minutes to see how long before the bulbs break. And 6 weeks later, the results are in.
Okay, so we've been running our longevity test with a 2-minute on-off cycle for over a month now, and the only bulb that is not burnt out is the LED.
So how does this test compare to, say, the average stress and usage that you put on a light bulb in a normal household?
Right, because I mean, these lights have been turned on and off over 10,000 times in a month.
Yeah, actually, that corresponds to over 5 years worth of stress turning it on and off in a regular household.
And given that when you turn on an incandescent light bulb, it uses the same amount of power as 0.36 seconds of continuous use and doesn't really take that much wear and tear, Jamie might be right. You're supposed to flip off the lights when you leave the room.
Yeah, I have a feeling this one's busted.
Yeah, I think it's definitely busted.
Jamie's always right.
While it's lights off on that myth, Adam and Jamie are doing their best to switch on in the dark. They're inflating helium balloons pre-dawn so that they have enough time to get the myth of the 22,000-foot fall in the air. And starting at 4 a.m., it's times like these when Adam reflects on the harder aspects of his job.
We get a lot of fan mail saying that we have the best job in the world, and I won't disagree with that. But there are also days, like this morning, when it is the hardest job I have ever done, by far.
And that's because so far with this myth, they've had setback after setback. Severed lines, burst balloons, and grounded dummies. What could have gone wrong has.
That's it, we're officially screwed.
Today may be a new day, but things haven't improved.
Yeah. That's just about the funniest thing I've ever seen. That's his ear. I'm just
He's
gonna...
like a cookie after baking, you know? It's all kind of flattened out.
It's already so hot that Ted's feeling a little flat. And that's not the only problem with this heat.
It's well over 100 degrees in the shade out here. We've got 500 pounds of explosives in here, high explosives. It's military spec, and you know, if we're anywhere in our work area and this should happen to go off, there won't be anything left of us, period.
Luckily, he has an elaborate plan to avoid a premature projectile.
So I put a blanket on it.
Once Jamie's attached his security blanket, it's time to get cooking.
Well, it's crunch time. The wind's kind of gentle, and we have to go. So it's now or never. We're inflating the balloons, and we're going to do it.
Everything that could go wrong, this is like the myth of Job is what's happening here.
But I've got 7 balloons. I think each of them are at least 20 to 25 pounds. It gives me 150 some odd pounds. I think it's enough to lift our airman. The bomb squad is coming back up here, and then we just cross our fingers. There goes nothing. Okay, that's cinching up on our airman. Now he's off the ground. Now he's off the ground!
At last, turret gunner Ted has got his wings. Slowly but surely, he climbs 500 feet. He may be slightly off target, but the guide wire will ensure that he falls right into the station, which means it's time to retreat to safety.
Well, our guy is airborne. The balloons are up, cable's good. Once they push that detonator, our airman will drop for approximately 6 seconds with a blasting cap, and then a second blasting cap will detonate the bomb under the train station, hopefully at the very femtosecond that our airman is touching the roof.
With the boys a safe distance away, it's finally time to put the myth of the 22,000-foot fall to the test. And here's what's going to happen. Airman Ted is suspended so that he's 500 feet off the ground. He's connected to the train station via a guide wire. On Adam's cue, the balloons will be cut and Ted will fall. 6 seconds later, the 1,000-pound bomb will boom. Will Ted survive?
Everybody, say it with me. Jamie wants big boom.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
He's falling. He's falling. He's going towards it. He's going towards it. No. Wow, here comes the shockwave.
The booms created a mushroom cloud of frightening proportions, and it's also set the surrounding hills on fire.
Oh, look at that!
Fortunately, the county fire department are quick to respond.
And there's
This day's just getting better and better.
Come to ground zero, it's awesome.
Frank will be right there. You're my new best friend.
And after an explosion like that, Frank's my new best friend too. On the high speed, you can clearly see the cushioning shockwave before the area gets blown to smithereens. But what happened to Ted? Well, unfortunately, there was a malfunction in the guide wire, which meant that he fell way off target. But the charge caused so much carnage that Jamie and Adam should still be able to draw some equally powerful conclusions.
If there's one thing in this whole blast site that tells you what the real deal is with this kind of explosion and being close to it, it's right over here. Check it out.
Whoa!
It totally wrapped around it.
That is crazy. Oh my God.
Can you imagine what this piece of steel would have done to you if it hit you instead of this tree? I mean, it's like a necktie. We're not going to get that off of there.
No, we're going to cut it here and display it proudly on your shelf.
There's so much shrapnel that if Ted had fallen into the station, our gunner would have been a goner.
Here's the body. There's the steel. There's more steel way over there and a lot further, so...
There's no way. There's just no way. The idea is that the pressure of this one human body somehow equalized the pressure of the bomb going off. That's just not going to happen.
So, in the middle of a crater, in the middle of a quarry, in the middle of nowhere, it's time to wrap this one up.
So what are we going to call this one? I mean, look, factually, we know that in World War II, there was an airman who fell 22,000 feet from his bomber and survived without a parachute. That is historically accurate.
Yeah, but the idea that a bomb going off would provide such an upwelling of air that it would decelerate him and gently lower him to the ground is bunk. It's just not, I don't think it's possible.
What do you think, Peg?
Give me a break. It didn't happen.
So busted.
Busted.
Busted. Let's get out of here.
All right.